We're diving straight into a truly unsettling puzzle today. The disappearance of 8-year-old Relisha Rudd in Washington, D.C. back in March of 2014.
Yeah,
It's a case that just continues to raise so many questions, even now.
exactly. And we've, pulled together information from places like Wikipedia, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, trying to really get to the heart of it.
Right?
Our goal here is basically to lay out the crucial facts as we know them, and maybe explore some of the many unanswered questions that still surround Relisha's fate.
Okay, so let's get into the details then. Relisha, she was just 8 years old when she was last definitively seen, March 1st, 2014. And at that time, she was living with her mother, Shamika Young, at the D.C. General Shelter.
And this is where Kahlil Tatum comes into the story. He was a 51-year-old janitor working there at the shelter.
Okay, a janitor.
Yeah, and it's pretty important to understand a bit about his background. He had a significant felony record.
Oh.
Yeah, things like burglary, larceny, breaking, entering. He'd actually served, considerable prison time for those. Twice, actually.
Wow. Okay, so that context, it immediately raises concerns, right? Especially him working in a shelter environment.
Absolutely. And what's really troubling is that reports suggest he was maybe overly friendly, especially with some of the residents, and seemed to pay particular attention to young girls.
That's disturbing. And he specifically focused on Relisha and her mother.
It appears so. He reportedly befriended them, even bought Relisha things like a tablet, took her to Disney on ice.
Okay, so it feels like maybe he was trying to gain their trust, kind of grooming almost.
It certainly looks like a deliberate effort, yeah. And this pattern, this sort of building rapport, it becomes really significant when you look at the timeline. Relisha stopped attending her school in February 2014.
A month before she was last seen.
Right. And when the school asked about her absence, her grandmother, Melissa Young, gave them a note.
A note saying,
Claiming Relisha was sick and being cared for by a Dr. Tatum.
Dr. Tatum. But he was the janitor.
Exactly. There's no indication he had any medical background. So a relative essentially fabricated this medical excuse involving him. That should have been a huge red flag right there.
You'd think so. And it seems it was for the school, thankfully. They tried to contact this Dr. Tatum.
They did. They got a number for him, tried to set up a meeting. When he didn't show up, they did the right thing. They reported Relisha missing to the police.
Okay, good.
But here's the thing that's really striking the delay. Relisha was out of school for like a whole month before the official missing persons investigation actually started on March 19th.
A month. Wow.
Yeah.
That lag. It kind of points to maybe some systemic issues, doesn't it? Between the school, the shelter, law enforcement.
It really does, especially concerning the safety of vulnerable kids in those situations.
And that delay just feels so critical in a missing child case. So the investigation finally starts March 19th. What did it uncover about her last known movements?
Well, some very, very disturbing sightings. There's surveillance footage from a Holiday Inn Express back on February 26th. It shows Relisha with Tatum. And then, even more concerning, footage from March 1st. This is at a Days Inn, also in D.C. She's seen walking into her hotel room with him.
March 1st?
Yeah. And tragically, that's the last confirmed proof we have that Relisha was alive.
Just awful.
And then the story just takes an even darker turn almost immediately after she was finally reported missing. On March 20th,
The very same day the police investigation began.
the very same day, Tatum's wife, Andrea, she was found shot dead in a motel room in Maryland.
Oh my God. And Tatum.
Chillingly, yeah.
Yeah.
Surveillance footage confirmed that Andrea and Kahlil Tatum had entered that exact hotel room together the night before she was found.
So he was there. It paints a really grim picture.
It does, and the timeline gets even more unsettling. Kahlil Tatum himself, he was last seen alive on March 2nd.
March 2nd, that's the day after the last sighting of Relisha at the Days Inn.
Correct. And his actions that day are deeply, deeply disturbing. He was seen on camera buying a shovel, lime, and these big 42-gallon trash bags.
Shovel, lime, trash bags. No, that's not normal. Those aren't everyday items you buy together.
Absolutely. Those purchases led directly to an arrest warrant being issued for him, for Kahlil Tatum, in connection with his wife Andrea's murder.
Okay, so they're looking for him for murder now.
Yes. And then, the final tragic piece of this particular part of the story, on March 31st, Tatum's body was found
Where?
in a shed in Kenilworth Park in D.C. He had died by suicide. It was the same gun used to kill his wife.
So he killed his wife and then himself and Relisha.
Well, with Tatum dead, getting direct answers about what happened to Relisha became incredibly difficult. Almost impossible, you could say.
Yeah.
Given everything, his pattern of behavior, the last sightings of Relisha with him, those disturbing purchases, his wife's murder, his suicide, the prevailing theory among law enforcement has been pretty consistent.
That he murdered Relisha, too.
That Kahlil Tatum murdered Relisha Rudd.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's hard to escape that conclusion, isn't it? Though I know early on there was some talk about, like, a sex trafficking theory, that maybe she was taken for that.
There was. That was considered the idea that maybe she'd been exploited or sold. But D.C. police have stated pretty clearly that their investigation led them to rule that possibility out.
Okay. So they don't believe that's what happened.
It highlights how, assumptions can fly around in these cases, but the police felt the evidence pointed away from trafficking.
Right. But without finding Relisha, her body's never been found, correct?
Correct. Nobody has ever been recovered. And because of that, understandably, her stepfather and some other relatives have held on to hope that she might still be alive somewhere.
You can absolutely understand that. That glimmer of hope in the face of just unthinkable grief and uncertainty.
It's a completely natural human response.
And there was also that really disturbing insight reported later, I think it was in the Washington Post, from a senior law enforcement official.
Yes, that was a particularly grim piece of reporting.
Yeah.
This official suspected that Tatum wasn't just inappropriately friendly, but was actually sexually exploiting Relisha.
Exploiting her.
Possibly even involved in pimping her. And the official speculated that Tatum might have killed his wife, Andrea, because she discovered what he was doing.
Oh, God. That adds just another layer of potential horror and motive to this whole terrible sequence.
It certainly deepens the tragedy and suggests, even more horrifying potential circumstances surrounding her disappearance. Investigators also did look into Tatum's brother-in-law at one point, Ricky Sheridan Lyle Sr.
Okay.
But he was ultimately questioned and ruled out as a person of interest in the case. So the focus really remained on Tatum.
Thinking back, it feels like initially Relisha's disappearance didn't get huge national media attention, did it? Not outside D.C. anyway.
That's true. There was definitely criticism about that. Suggestions that the lack of broader coverage might have reflected a sort of societal disparity. Whose cases get the big spotlight. The missing white woman syndrome discussion often comes up in these contexts.
Right. The idea that cases involving minority children, especially from marginalized communities, don't always get the same level of attention.
Exactly. That lack of initial widespread attention really underscores a difficult truth sometimes. Thankfully, though, there have been people working tirelessly to keep her name out there.
Like Henderson Long.
Yes, absolutely. Henderson Long and his organization, DC's Missing Voice, they have been absolutely vital, just crucial in making sure Relisha's case isn't forgotten.
They've really been incredible advocates, haven't they? Keeping her memory alive, constantly pushing for answers. They even set up an annual Relisha Rudd Remembrance Day.
That's right, on July 11th each year. It's a way to honor her, keep the public aware, and keep the pressure on.
And the police. Is the case still considered active?
Oh, definitely. The Metropolitan Police Department has been very clear. Relisha's case remains an active, open investigation. They continue to follow up on leads, and they strongly urge them to come forward with any information.
No matter how small it seems.
Precisely. Even something that seems insignificant could be the missing piece.
And the fact that they've received, thousands of tips over the last 10 years? That shows people haven't forgotten. People still care and hope for answers.
It really does, and it's such a critical reminder for everyone listening, too. There is absolutely no minimum time requirement, no waiting period to report someone missing.
None at all. If you're worried about someone, report it immediately. Don't wait 24 hours. Don't wait at all.
Exactly. And if you, the listener, have any information, anything at all related to Relisha Rudd's disappearance, please contact the authorities.
Who should they call?
You can call the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Their number is 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-5678. Or you can contact the Washington Metropolitan Police Department directly at 1202-265-910, or their Command Information Center, which is 1202-727-9099. Any detail could be crucial.
It's hard to believe, as we're talking, it marks 10 years. March 1st, 2024 was 10 years since she was last seen. A decade.
A decade. It's a really sobering anniversary. It just highlights the enduring mystery, but also the unwavering efforts of her family and the community to find out what happened.
So ultimately, the central, just deeply painful question is still there, isn't it? What truly happened to Relisha Rudd?
That's it. The circumstances are just undeniably tragic, and not having those definitive answers, it continues to have such a profound impact on her family, her community, everyone who knew her or knows her story.
It really does. It's just a stark, heartbreaking reminder of how vulnerable children can be and the devastating consequences when these cases remain unresolved. Keeping her memory alive, supporting the search for answers, feels so incredibly important.
Absolutely. This deeply troubling case, like unfortunately so many others, where someone vanishes without a trace, it really underscores the complex web of factors involved, but also that enduring hope, that even after so many years, maybe some measure of resolution can still be found.
Yeah.
It really compels you, I think, to look beyond the headlines, doesn't it? To consider the profound human stories at the core. And it reinforces just how vital community awareness and that relentless pursuit of justice really are.